Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Monday, December 8th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Cotton Bowl game against, well, either Texas A&M or Miami. 23 days, the game against Michigan in 355 days. If you're planning your next event, make it unforgettable with Grateful Griddle, Columbus's favorite food truck, serving up smash burgers, gourmet sandwiches, and good vibes. Book your catering today at GratefulGriddleOH.com. Okay, joined by Tony Gerdeman here inside the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. Tony, we now know a lot more about what Ohio State's path through the college football playoff is going to look like, and it is going to start in a familiar place.
Jerry World.
They're going to play in the 2025 Cotton Bowl for the second time.
So, yeah, it's boy, it wasn't that long ago we were there watching Ohio State play a team from Texas. I can't recall which. History was made, and then the next time we see them there, they could be playing another team from Texas. What a great benefit to being the 2 seed in the college football playoffs.
Yeah, and this would be the second time they've played in the 2025 Cotton Bowl, because this game is a New Year's Eve game. So they played on January 10th, I think, of 2025, and then they're going to close 2025 on December 31st, playing in the Cotton Bowl again. It is a 7:30 Eastern kickoff if you are looking to plan your New Year's Eve accordingly. You know, obviously you've got to figure out who wins the Miami-Notre Dame game, but it does.
Miami, Texas A&M.
Sorry, Miami, Texas A&M, Notre Dame not appearing in your picture in the college football playoff this year. This is, this is going to be, and we'll have lots to talk about with this, and we'll have plenty of time to talk about that. But so that's your sort of setup. And then if Ohio State wins that one, then they would play in the Fiesta Bowl. The number 2 seed who is on their side of the bracket is Georgia. If it's not Georgia, it's going to be the winner of Ole Miss and Tulane, but it would be Cotton Bowl, Fiesta Bowl, and then the national championship game in Miami. So that's the potential path for Ohio State, but a lot of stuff to get through before we get there. I guess let's start with the plan for immediately. Yeah. The plan for Brian Hartline, who is the new head coach at USF. He really was kind of focused entirely on Columbus last week for the most part, other than sort of the interview process. What's the plan for Brian Hartline now for the next couple weeks?
Well, he's going to spend some time at USF this week, and then he'll come back, and they're already going to start to get the game plan going, and then he'll come back and be fully immersed. The plan is whenever he's here, Ryan Day said he's going to be locked in. But we've heard, like, when Tom Herman was going from Ohio State to Houston, like he'd take 20 minutes or whatever here to be on the phone talking to possible assistants, and it's you're doing two jobs at once in the same amount of 24-hour period, and getting very little sleep while you do that. But I think there's one of the things Ryan Day said is, like, they've got more time to get all of these things situated in terms of the game planning and getting ready, and they certainly did not have that this past week. But you get more time to work things out, and this is also, and you may get to it in terms of the younger players getting some time now, and the veteran players getting a little bit of time off, get off their feet, but also you don't want them to get too off their feet. You want them to be able to get locked back in when the time comes.
Yeah, the way he made it sound is they're almost going to treat this a little bit like a bye week during the regular season, where you're going to take a week and get the younger guys a bunch of practice time, let the older guys, more experienced guys, get a little bit of rest, heal up a little bit, and then you're going to kind of get back at it, because the ultimate goal is get things ramped up so that you're at peak intensity, peak efficiency, peak everything, energy, violence, yes,
speed,
as you're getting on that plane to go down to Texas. Was interesting that Ryan Day said with this longer gap, he can maybe get a little more involved in some of the play calling and some of the game planning and all that. Not play calling, game planning. I want to be clear on that. But
sorry, your show.
Yes. Thank you for remembering. It's not Buckeyes to Gerdeman now morning.
Write that down.
Write it down. Great
Siri?
Stuff. It is going to be a probably a little bit of a different game plan, because it feels like
it better be.
Well, it feels like lessons may have been learned from that game on Saturday night in Indianapolis.
Yeah, and Ryan Day said that a couple of times. When you have these games, they expose some of your weaknesses, your flaws that you didn't necessarily think were flaws or weaknesses. So when you do lose, you have to re-examine everything. And and that's one of the things where, and he said, in a win, you can maybe brush it under the rug. Things are fine. Did we win? Mm-hmm. Did we win?
It's a question I've heard from an Ohio State assistant at some point in the past, yes.
We won, right? We do. So
what happened the game after that?
That's neither here nor there. But yeah, Ryan Day said it exposes the scabs and the scars, and you're forced to address it all. And like, why didn't this work? What do we need to do? Do we need to do something else? Probably. Mm-hmm. So you have to address the things that are now seen as areas of concern.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that he got asked about that I was kind of interested in towards the end of the game last night was it felt like you didn't see a ton of Carnell Tate in a lot of moments in the second half where I'm sure Indiana's defensive coaching staff thought, oh good, Carnell Tate's not out there. And so there was sort of a natural, okay, is this a little bit of a pitch count situation? Are they sort of bringing him back slowly from the injury? Was there some kind of a recurrence of the injury? What was the deal there? And it sounds like, nope.
Yeah, it said they could have, both him and Jeremiah could have played 50 or 60 plays, but they kind of wanted to get a little bit of a rotation, give them a little bit of rest. But I still think, I don't think he's 100% Carnell Tate.
Probably not.
And I think he would have been out there more. But he did say they had plays drawn up for him, big hits drawn up for him, but the protection wasn't there. They wanted to go deep early, take some deep shots, be aggressive. But when you do that, these are long developing plays, and you need your offensive line to be there that entire time, and they weren't for some of those. So they need to do maybe a better job next time of, well, we'd like to take some shots, but let's first make sure that we are defending, or we are protecting the quarterback. So maybe you start some first quarter, some quicker, shorter, get the ball out quickly, and then you're seeing if things start going your way and you're handling things. It's like, okay, now we can dial something up.
Yeah, and a lot of that is going to start up front as well, and there was some concern there with, the offensive line was very clearly not good enough, and you could say that about just about everyone on the offensive side of the ball, not good enough. If you score 10 points, the defense gives up 13, that should be good enough to win. The offense scores 10, that is generally not going to be good enough to win. The offensive line felt like you sort of went through the season going, oh, it looks like they've addressed these issues. And then Saturday night, it was very clearly they had not. So what did Ryan Day think about the line's play?
Yeah, not great. It's a concern that you've been so solid. So they'll look at it again, well, we need to look at the film. But you can tell, like, he's not happy about it because it's kind of what we were saying earlier where you thought things were good. And then you find out, well, maybe they're not so good, and so we need to continue to examine that. Things were better when Gabe Van Sickle was in, at least from other people's vantage points. And I think there was a stat that there are no tackles for loss once he was inserted into the game. So these are all considerations that they'll have to take in through practice. I don't know. We'll talk about this, I'm sure, in the weeks to come. But are you expecting a new offensive line, a new right guard?
Yeah, I think if you're looking at that, it's a small sample, and obviously these decisions are going to get made over a bigger sample of, you got 3 weeks of practice now, and what you see on the practice field is going to be probably a significant factor in that decision. But based on what you saw on Saturday night, it's certainly a lot more of a conversation than I would have guessed 24 hours ago.
Yeah.
One last thing that I thought was kind of interesting, Ryan Day was very, very clear on he's giving credit to Indiana. Very clear, this is not, they had nothing to do with it, we just beat it, very clear on the fact he was giving credit to Indiana in this. But he was asked, how much of the stuff that you saw was issues of your team, your guys not executing versus how much was just you tip your cap to Indiana and go, well, we played our best and you beat us.
Yeah, no, there was definitely some. And he was also asked about some missed holding calls, and he's like, it all comes back to something he has talked about for a couple of years now. Don't leave it up to one play. And so, yes, would it have been better if you make a kick? Sure. Would it have been better if you hit the quarterback sneak? Sure. Would it have been better if you kicked 2 field goals rather than fail on 4th down? Perhaps you win the game.
Yep.
You score a touchdown, perhaps you win the game. You score 2 touchdowns in those red zone situations, you win the game. So those are all of these things where it's impossible to not just be like, this is just constantly rolling around in your mind. And the only way to get it out of your mind is to find out who you're playing next. And so maybe now they can they can find some sanity and kind of move on to the next thing. You say one last thing. I want to say one last thing. He was asked who was calling the plays, and he said it was Brian Hartline. So the conspiracy theory, unless he's lying, Brian Hartline calling the plays. And in terms of who's going to be calling it for the next game, that's probably still going to be Brian Hartline. But they're going to put all of this game planning together and see how things go towards the end of the month. But yeah, I think that answers a question that people had.
Yeah, I think we got some answers to a lot of stuff that people were sort of wondering about coming out of that game, and now they have someone to sort of turn their focus to. Two someones, in fact. Number 10, Miami. Number 7, Texas A&M. They will play in the first round down in College Station, and the winner will face the Buckeyes in the Cotton Bowl New Year's Eve, 7:30 Eastern. We will be there. We'll have plenty of coverage in the lead up to that. Get to watch a bunch of Hurricanes, a bunch of Aggies, and Buckeyes will have a little bit of a head start in terms of game planning for this because they can scout the heck out of both of those teams for the next few weeks and start putting some game plans together early. And this is probably going to be a pretty good first round game, so you're going to probably be burning through some of your good stuff to make sure you get out of that first round. So a little bit beneficial for Ohio State there, because I know everyone's immediate reaction is going to be Texas A&M and Texas. How is that possible? So there you go. So Buckeyes playing the winner of Miami and Texas A&M New Year's Eve, 7:30 p.m. That's it for now. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.